Good day, students. Today we want to look at this paper, Chemistry 0620, Extended Theory. It used to be called paper 3 previously. Suppose now it's called the paper 41. I just want to look at this question which was talking about how we can make ethanol from petroleum. You know, petroleum can also be called crude oil. It's the source of all hydrocarbons that we use throughout the whole world today. That's why you find out that some countries or most countries in the Middle East, their economies are stable because they possess petroleum. So we want to look at question number 7, which reads, ethanol can be made by fermentation or petroleum. Ethanol can be made by fermentation of glucose. So there you see the equation, which is illustrating the fermentation of the compound glucose, C6H12O6. It can actually be fermented in the presence of yeast. And then that is an exothermic reaction. We produce ethanol and carbon dioxide. So the first question was, what is meant by the term respiration? Now, if you are talking of respiration, you are talking of a process whereby living cells, plant cells, even yeast cells can actually obtain energy from sugars such as glucose. So that's how you would actually write your answer here, okay? So you're just looking at a process whereby yeast cells, plant cells obtain energy. So what answer can we write here if we are asked about what is respiration, okay? This is just a process whereby living cells, okay? This could be yeast cells, plant cells, animal cells, they obtain energy, okay? They obtain energy energy from sugars such as glucose. Okay, so this is what is happening here. We are actually obtaining energy from sugars such as glucose. And remember, this is actually the breakdown of glucose in the presence of oxygen. So to be more specific here, we are talking of aerobic respiration. But what is important here is for you to mention the fact that we are producing or we are obtaining energy from sugars such as glucose. Okay, all right. And then when this happens, we are now on 7A part 2. The question is saying, name the products formed during respiration in the presence of oxygen. So this question is so particular. If you say glucose plus oxygen, so what are you going to produce? There are three possible answers. There are three possible answers here that we can actually write down. Okay, I'm just going to use chemical symbols here. Okay, so when this process happens, you're going to obtain carbon dioxide. Okay, you obtain carbon dioxide. Okay, you can also obtain water, which is H2O. Okay, you can also obtain this compound, which is called adenosine triphosphate. In actual fact, this is the most important currency for oxygen, which is used by living cells. It is the source of energy, and that's the whole aim of carrying out respiration for us to produce ATP. So these are the three products that we can produce when respiration takes place: carbon dioxide, water, and ATP. Okay, all right. So I'll just erase what I've written down there so that I can move down. Okay, right. So those are the answers, or those are the expected answers that we can have there. All right, and then we have a question which is saying, what are enzymes? Okay, and before we proceed, mostly students have a problem whenever they are doing these sciences. They treat them separately. Okay, these subjects are related. Sometimes when you get questions, use your biology knowledge to also answer some chemistry questions, because these science subjects are actually interrelated. Don't take them as segments, don't take them as piecemeal, but actually have this cross-referencing so that you'll be in a position to answer the questions. Like this question, you can actually see that it's related to biology, like what are enzymes, okay? Enzymes, okay? These are biological catalysts, okay? I'm using my knowledge of biology, okay? So these are biological catalysts, okay? These are biological catalysts and are protein in nature, okay? Yeah, you're showing the examiner that you know that catalysts are also protein in nature. All right, fine. We have the next question, which says, suggest a method of measuring the rate of reaction. Okay, you want to measure the speed of the reaction. The moment you see the word rate, it means there's an aspect of time. So you're going to measure a certain aspect, but at the same at the same time, you're going to also ensure that you are doing it at equal intervals. And usually, we're supposed to come up with a graph, and then we actually track how the reaction was happening. So keywords here, we must have a specific quantity measured over a certain period of time, okay? For instance, I can count, okay? You can count the number, right? Practically count the number of bubbles, count the number of bubbles of gas produced, okay? Produced over a specific time, over a specific time, over a specific time. This aspect of time has to be there, okay? And then here you could also say in equal intervals, okay? In equal intervals. The examiner also wants to find out whether you know that these experiments are done in equal intervals. So I can actually measure, count the number of bubbles produced over a specific period of time, okay? If I don't want, okay, I can also say, okay, this method might actually be difficult counting the bubbles, okay? I can actually decide to say, okay, I'm going to measure the mass either of how the reactants are being used up, okay? So I will be aware of the mass of my empty container. So what I'll do is I know that if my container is these reactants, maybe I start off with 2 grams. As the reaction is occurring, I can also measure how the mass is decreasing, okay? This method which I wrote up there, I'm actually looking at the product side. I can also depend on the reactant side. So what do? I can actually say, all right, I can measure, okay, okay, how fast the mass of reactants is decreasing, okay? So actually what you could do here is you can actually explain the fact that you are going to measure the mass of your container under equal intervals or at equal intervals. What was the mass at time 0? What was the mass when after maybe 25 seconds? What is the mass after 50 seconds? What is the mass after 75 seconds? In that way, you are going to actually come up with a rate of reaction because you are looking at how fast the reactants are actually disappearing. So a question like this, where it says suggest a method of measuring the rate of reaction, there has to be an aspect of time. You are doing an experiment, but what you're doing here is you're doing this experiment at equal intervals. In that way, you can actually be in a position to successfully answer this question. Okay, right. So let us look at what happens when this reaction is taking place. Okay, we want to look at what happens when this reaction is taking place. So we noted the following observation. When a small amount of yeast was added to aqueous glucose, the reaction started and the solution went slightly cloudy. The reaction rate increased and the solution became more cloudier and warmer. After a while, the reaction rate decreased and eventually stopped, leaving a 14% solution of ethanol in water. Why did the rate increase? Okay, so first of all, what we need to take note of the fact that when temperature increases, okay, we are also still talking about the speed of a reaction. When temperature increases, there's something which happened here. When temperature increases, it can actually promote the formation of yeast cells, okay? Right, so when the temperature increases, yeast cells multiply, okay? So here I can say higher uh, temperatures, higher temperatures cause yeast, higher temperatures cause yeast cells to multiply, okay? You can paraphrase this and say it causes yeast cells to actually increase, okay? So this higher temperature is actually promoting the multiplication of yeast cells. Remember, the success of this reaction is hinged upon the availability of yeast. Yeast contain the enzyme zyamase, okay? And zyamase is actually a very important enzyme which helps us in this process of fermentation, right? And then we also have a question which says, suggest an explanation for the increase in the cloudness of the solution. Okay, so this one you can also say it's almost similar to the question above. Okay, this is as a result of a rapid increase of yeast cells. Okay, so our answer here would be rapid. Okay, rapid increase or exponential increase, rapid increase uh, in the rapid increase in the amount of yeast cells. Okay, right. So that would be the answer. There's an exponential increase when temperature increases, and this is what is going to bring about the cloudiness. But you're going to notice that the reaction is not going to increase. The reaction is going to eventually come to a stop. In other words, we have two reasons why the fermentation process is coming to a stop here. There are reasons which causes fermentation actually to come to a stop here. One of the reasons which causes this is the fact that all the reactants are used up, okay? Maybe all the glucose in the container, all the glucose is used up, okay? That's one of the reactants. The reactants have been finished, so our reaction has gone to completion, okay? And another reason that we can actually also write down here is zymes, okay? Zymes enzymes. Zymes enzyme are now enzymes are now denatured. Okay, please don't use the word killed when you are talking of enzymes. Okay, they are denatured. They are no longer active. Their active sites have actually been changed, so they can no longer help in the fermentation process. Enzymes are now denatured. Okay, even you can also mention the fact that presence. Okay, presence of presence of excess alcohol, presence of excess alcohol also kill yeast cells, okay? Also kill our yeast cells. All right. So it's actually an interesting process which is happening. You have actually a process which is happening, but the product that you are producing is actually also killing the catalyst which we have been using. So what you're actually going to notice is the fact that the process is going to happen, and as the process is happening, the process will actually start off as rapid, okay? And you have, maybe I can sketch a rough graph for the process, okay? The process will start off rapidly, and then it is going to level off like that. So here we are talking of this segment, okay? When the reaction levels off. And we are saying during this segment, maybe the glucose cells have been used up, okay? But can also say the alcohol that was produced in the process is responsible for killing yeast cells, and that causes the reaction to actually come to or to grind to a halt. Okay, yeast contain zymes, and zymes can be denatured. Remember, enzymes only work on within specific optimum conditions. When you alter those optimum conditions, the enzymes are denatured, and your reaction will come to a stop. So that's those are the possible answers that we can have here. Okay, fine. And then if you also move to the next question, all right, give one use of ethanol in alcoholic drinks. Oh, sorry, one use of ethanol is in alcoholic drinks. Give two other uses of ethanol. Remember, such questions we want industrial uses. Ethanol has actually found a lot of uses in our industry. Okay, one of the common uses of ethanol is it is used as an additive in fuels. Okay, like suppose you've actually seen that in some countries, you come across E30, E60, E70 like that. The E stands for ethanol, okay? Remember, ethanol is highly flammable. So countries that don't have enough petroleum, they can actually manufacture ethanol and they blend, okay, the ethanol with petrol. That's why it's called a blend. It's a mixture of ethanol and petrol, which is obtained from petroleum. Okay, right. So you can actually write here the fact that it's a fuel additive. Okay, it can be used as a fuel additive. Okay, it can also used in the manufacture of vinegar. Okay, manufacture of vinegar. When we oxidize ethanol, it becomes ethanoic acid. So ethanoic acid is vinegar. What we actually put in our fries, okay, that is actually vinegar. It can be manufactured from ethanol. All right. It can also be used as a solvent. Okay, ethanol can also be used as a solvent. Okay, ethanol can also be used in thermometers. You see, there are some thermometers that contain alcohol. I'm not talking of modern digital thermometers, the traditional ones, which we use as liquid filled thermometers. So it can actually be used as in thermometers, okay? Right, so the ethanol can be used as an alcohol in thermometers. There are so many uses that we have here, plenty of uses, okay? But if they say two and the word two is in bold, please give two. Don't give multiple, because if you give multiple, maybe your answer will eventually be wrong, and then you can actually give the examiner multiple choice. Maybe they'll have a tendency of picking wrong answers. So if they say two, stick to two. Choose your best two. Maybe you can just say fuel additive and manufacture of vinegar, or you can say it can be used as a flavoring in food. Okay, so that's the question to part C. Okay, so let's look at maybe the last question for this session, the very last question. Okay, this examiner now was testing your chemistry to find out whether you know how you can move from this long hexane molecule until you get your ethanol. There are two processes that are involved here, okay? So let's look at what happens first, all right? Long molecules like hexane, usually they don't have much use in chemistry because of the fact that they're too long anyway. So we actually have to break them apart. And I suppose you still remember the process whereby we can break these long hydrocarbon molecules, okay? Right. So we can actually break down this, okay, during a process called cracking, okay? And then we can make shorter and more useful molecules, okay? I suppose you can see what I'm writing there, okay? Right. So I am actually performing what we call cracking, okay? Right. So I started off with a long molecule, which is hexane, all right? And it has 6 carbon atoms and 14 hydrogen atoms. So if you check on this side, now I have a shorter molecule, which is called ethene, okay? Right, so if you look at the total number of atoms on this side is equal to the total number of atoms on the other side, okay? Remember, you cannot create or destroy matter. You should account for what has happened here. So if you say 2 carbons plus 4 carbons, you get 6. If you say 4 hydrogens plus 10 hydrogens, you're going to get 14. So what we are simply doing here, you see, this is, okay, what we are showing here, this process, okay, this process, is called cracking, okay? You want to tell the examiner that you know that what you've written there is called cracking. Remember that question is 5 marks, okay? You've written an equation, you want to explain what it is called. So we have done stage number 1, okay? Now we have a shorter and more useful reactant there. And what we have there is ethene. So what we do, okay, we go on to the next stage, and our next stage will be hydration, okay? We are going to carry out what we call hydration of ethene, okay? Hydration of ethene. The term hydration simply means adding water. So we are going to add water to ethene. And how do we do that? Okay, we just take our ethene and we say C2H4, okay, and then we're going to react that with steam. Okay, we react that with steam, and when we do that, okay, we are going to produce C2H5 OH. Okay, all right, and you see, we only produce one product. Okay, because this is an addition reaction. All right, so you also need to remember that this is an addition reaction. This is an addition reaction. And in addition reaction, in most cases, you don't form a byproduct, okay? So the ethanol has been produced via a two-stage process. We started off with cracking with a long molecule of hexane. Hexane cannot be used in the lab or in industry as a starting material because it's too long. The first process is to break it down. And if we use heat, we call that thermal cracking. Sometimes they use heat, sometimes they use the two, heat and a catalyst. So we can have what we call thermal catalytic cracking. Then we have a shorter molecule, which is ethene. After that, our ethene is mixed with steam, okay? And this steam is water. And then from ethene, we have ethanol. And when we do that, we have actually achieved the process which we shown at the top here, okay? Alkene to an alcohol. And our alkene here was ethene. And from ethene, we move on to ethanol. That's why you have 5 marks here. And they've actually justified that. I thought I could just revise this short organic chemistry question with you, and I hope you have benefited. See you in the next session. Bye for now.